Hello and welcome to Last Week in AWS. I'm Corey Quinn. Tomorrow, Tuesday night, I'll be hanging out here in Seattle. If you happen to be here in Seattle, let me know. You can find me in the usual places for details on where exactly I'm hosting a drink up. Now, what did AWS do last week? Because they're going to tell me about my thoughts on it this week. Let's begin. EC2 introduces application status checks. That's right, EC2 has discovered the concept of the health check only 2 short decades after AWS's own load balancers did the same thing. I don't want to hear anything else about innovation this week, please. IAM Identity Center supports one-click multi-region option for new organization instances. Great, the thing I spent the last week implementing the hard way now gets a one-click option because a couple weeks ago they announced this capability, but you had to do it by hand. I am less than amused by the timeline here. S3 adds additional policy details to access denied error messages. Okay, you get exact ARNs for denials, which is a huge win for diagnosis, only it's just for explicit deny. Nothing permitted it apparently still results in the usual opaque message intended to send you herring off after side quests. Secrets Manager adds managed external secrets support for Jenkins and SonarQube. Jenkins support? What century is this? Burst to region, overflow AWS Outpost workloads to Amazon EC2. Excellent news! You can now handle excess traffic on the device you're paying for to avoid the AWS region by sending that extra traffic back to the AWS region. This is just extra steps where each one costs a king's ransom. Designing for failure, building resilient systems on AWS. Well, this is a pile of mistakes stacked atop one another. See how many you can spot in your own infrastructure. The customer was running Cassandra, mistake, in 3 instances on the same physical node, mistake, in the SFO region, expensive mistake, and went down. There was no partition placement group, which many of you will be learning about for the first time in this sentence. There was no CloudWatch alarm on EC2 status check, so detection became inherently reactive, and so there was a 90-minute window before they got to root cause. Glad the story got told, but I'm also sad it got to this point. Amazon Quick for Microsoft 365, agentic AI, where you work. I can't wait to see Amazon Quick starting a slap fight with Microsoft Copilot over who's the best kid on the elementary school playground. Meanwhile, the grown-ups are using not these tools. Introducing the next generation AWS VPN client with CLI support and admin controls. At long last, the VPN client gets a CLI. Given that this charges per connection hour, I wonder if easily scriptable disconnections will reduce revenue by more than agents can now connect easily, will increase it by. AWS Certificate Manager will discontinue email validation to prove domain validation for certificates. If you haven't switched to DNS cert validation yet, by God, are you about to? Note that this isn't AWS, but rather the industry group around certificate management that's pushing this change. It's a good one, but it might hurt for some of you. How IAM Role Manager rethinks the starting point for IAM roles. I think I like this, but one caution. If it becomes normalized, there's going to be a whole generation of accounts that accumulate AWS-created roles that nobody scoped. Thus, the blast radius during the inevitable next credential incident is going to go back to these AWS-maintained templates, and where exactly that lands in the shared responsibility model is relatively untrod territory. So bring popcorn. How to authenticate customers during chat with Amazon Connect Customer. This got yanked, and most likely because someone didn't realize that Connect Customer, which, God, what a name, actually does this natively via OIDC customer authentication. At least they noticed. How WeatherBug reduced storage costs by 80% using S3 Storage Lens and Kiro CLI. The kind of company who didn't realize that 80% of their storage bill was waste is exactly the same kind of company who thinks Kiro is a good coding assistant offering compared to other vendor options, so this tracks. I do get it though, changing storage patterns can break things, sometimes permanently. Introducing the new AWS Cloud Quest, AI-powered practice, hands-on building, and a path to official AWS badges, which are not certifications. Great, a customer who cannot meaningfully describe their problem might just be the most accurate simulation of a real-world customer that AWS has ever built. And finally, some security nonsense for you. Missing input validation in the OpenSearch Security Analytics plugin, the thing you deployed specifically to notice bad input, shows up as a bulletin filed under 079, and then, apparently because once wasn't enough, the same CVE again at 081, which is either a numbering hiccup or the most honest admission to date that nobody reads these things other than me. Wedged between them sits a pair of memory safety bugs in base64 decoding in the C++ SDK, proving that even a text encoding from 1987 can get you 2 CVE IDs. AWS ships that fix, and you own the part where every statically linked binary in your fleet gets rebuilt and revalidated. All of it announced via RSS, the delivery mechanism for a company that will happily sell you an alerting product. And that's what happened last week in AWS. I'm Corey Quinn. Stick around.